this. Before we go ahead and start, I am going to ask of each and every single one of you to not only have your camera on just to make sure that you're fully attentive, but number two, I want you to go ahead and have a notebook out because what you're about to go ahead and learn over the next 30, 45 minutes or even hours is going to truly transform everything for you only if you let it. Right. But I want to go ahead and make sure that we're all level headed, So if you can go ahead and drop inside of the chat, inside of the Zoom chat, what level of experience do you have so far in the markets? I want to make sure that we're tailoring this towards you because at the end of the day, we do these calls, just for you guys, you guys that are barely starting off, maybe a year in, maybe 2 years in. I see that we got some people 11 months in, a year and some change inside of the chat. Right. So I want to make sure that I'm tailoring these questions towards each and every single one of you. 3 years in, 4 months in, 1 month in, over 2 years, almost 2 weeks, 1.6 years, 7 months, 2 years. Cool. Awesome. So we got a little bit of everything, That way we get a little bit of a context into pretty much what's going to be happening today, But without further ado, the person that I'm going to go ahead and bring up is actually somebody that has just reached this year, his sixth year within the markets. It's somebody as well that I had the pleasure to sharing the stage with just recently in January for the Blueprint Wealth Conference. And this is somebody that helps educate each and every single one of you within the platform. In fact, he's one of the top rated educators, and this is somebody that has not only yielded results for himself, but has been able to go ahead and duplicate that over and over and over again for thousands of people all across the globe. And his name is Siva. So, with that being said, Siva, are you there, bro?
Yo, yo,
Yo, yo,
what's
yo.
good?
What's good?
Can
What's
y'all
good,
hear me?
bro? Yes, sir. Let me go ahead and actually get this going, I know it's been a minute actually since we ran a podcast together. It's
Yes, sir.
been a year
It has
actually.
been.
It's been a year, I realized it the other day. I was like, hmm.
Really? It's been a year?
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah, like I was looking at the recorded video. It's literally been a year since we last did the
wow.
call, because there's, you
Yeah,
have your go lives,
I
and
agree with Jack there. I swear we did I mean, I think it was a different call though. I
yeah.
don't think it was a podcast call.
Yeah, no, it was a different call. We've done
Yeah.
trainings before, but we haven't
Mhm.
done a podcast together for almost a year, So this is why I'm genuinely excited about this because I feel like these podcasts, I don't know about you, but like in these podcasts, this is where like things are personalized. So a lot of these questions kind of reflect to some people's journey, where it is that they're at, And sometimes when we do a training, it's kind of like generalized. So we kind of just assume that everybody's in the same like headspace, Uh,
Mhm.
but I want to go ahead and start off since I know that a lot of people are brand new into this. I've seen that half of the people here are under a year in, so they probably haven't got the opportunity to go ahead and meet you, bro. So if you can, go ahead and talk a little bit about what it is that got you initiated into this journey about 6 years ago, how it is that you started, and more importantly, like how has your mindset shifted from the day that you began this journey to now?
All right, well, first things first, you guys know my name is Siva. I'm 30 years old. I am a father to a 3-year old. There is another one in the oven as well. He's going to be born here in
Let's
this
go.
end of summer. Um, he's going to be Leo gang just like you. So, that's going to be awesome. Um, and man, where do I start? Um, I originally got into this because back in 2019, February, my mom turned 65 years old in January 31st, and due to our whole like financial situation going on at home, um, she couldn't actually retire. She still had to continue to work. And at that time, I was working at Amazon, and obviously, what I was making at Amazon at the time was not enough to cover our expenses at home. So I was essentially looking for other streams of income. One of my really close friends, I started following him on Instagram, and he was showing like stocks and trading and forex and all this stuff. And I had no idea what that stuff was. I knew that you like buy something and then you sell it, but I didn't really understand how it all worked. So I hit him up. He introduced me to Zachary Hogan, which you guys also know that's on the platform. And that's where things kind of really took off. Being able to physically be around somebody that is, at the time, just like how you guys are on this call with me, about 6 years of experience. At that time, Zach was around 5, 6 years of experience. And that was the only person that I personally knew in my entire life that actually did trading as a full time venture, being an entrepreneur as a full time venture. So, soon after that, it was actually a couple of months in. Um, we started blowing up in Canada. If you guys don't know, I'm actually originally from Canada. I moved down to Houston. This is where I am now. Um, but I got to meet Jordan Morgan. He flew up, came to Canada, and he was telling me that same year in 2019 was when there was a Dallas convention. So he was telling me, hey, no matter what, Siva, you need to be at this convention, and anybody else that you can bring, make sure you're there. So, if I hear somebody that has the things that I want, I'm going to be listening to them and doing the things that I need to do. So at
Exactly.
the time, um, I was kind of procrastinating, but also didn't have the money to actually afford the flight to come down there. So I dedicated um, getting on a Greyhound bus from Toronto. I don't even know how many transfers I took. It was insane. My ride from Toronto to Dallas was about like 36 hours. So I basically took 36 hours, almost 3 days, basically like, a day and a half, basically going into 3 days of travel. And I came to that convention, and honestly, the rest was history at that point. Soon after that, went to European convention. I mean, there's so much that I can fill you guys in on, but really stepping foot in that convention and being around other people, just like how some of y'all were able to experience the Blueprint conference, being around individuals that truly are doing this, but being in a room with multiple 5, 6, 7, 8 figure earners, that was something else, right? Being able to speak or not speak, but listen to the legendary Bob Proctor, who's not here with us anymore. Those types of things really showed me the power and what is possible here. And that's really just what kind of stuck with me with this. And one of the things that I also took in from Jordan, from Zach's experience is you got to really stick to this thing long term. Right. One of the things I really learned from Jordan as well was capital preservation. In this trading niche, a lot of people try to come in and make things happen right away. And I really took things. I mean, in the beginning, I kind of tried to do it fast. I got humbled, but it really then changed things for me because I then started to take it slow. And honestly, I can't say that anything I did I would regret, but I'm honestly grateful for this platform. I'm grateful for this community because I simply would not be where I'm at today. Being able to take my son to the park in the afternoon, which is something I used to work from 8 to 8. So being able to even do the things that I want to do when I want to do it, having that time freedom, I think that was probably the most powerful thing. I forgot the second half of your question because you kind of threw like three questions at me, fam, but I think I answered it.
Yes, yes, I have that tendency to ask multiple questions. All that was so my bad, bro. But I think one of the biggest things that you covered right there, and it's something that I believe should really hit home to all of you right here inside this call, is the reason that we do this to begin with, which is the time freedom. It's not too much about the financials, I would say. Of course, like the amount of money that you can generate right here is like limitless. There's no limit to the amount of money you can make. But I think it's more of the time freedom, you being able to do what you want to do. And you, especially, you're about to, have your second kid. You have your second kid on the way, and that's amazing. And just you being able to say that you're part of that first generation of parents, inside of your family, that you don't have to vacate your home to go ahead and go to work. You can stay at home. You can literally be the one to nurture them. You can be the person to go ahead and teach them what it is that you want to teach them in life, and do that. You can spend that time with them, and the most precious thing that you can give another human being, especially in their early years. So, congrats to you to being able to accomplish those things, bro. And my next biggest question that I have, especially since a lot of these people in here about a year in, 2 years in. And what many of these people don't know about you as well is that you're directly mentored by pretty much the what we call the founding fathers here, you know? And I say that mentorship is very vital, and the biggest thing is that you're mentored by people that have already had 10, 11, 12 years of experience inside of the markets. You have roughly about half of that, but you were able to also learn from their mistakes. So I want you to cover a little bit about the mistakes as well that you had within your first couple years in. That way these people in here can go ahead and learn from that and be able to go ahead and shorten up their learning process. So, what were some of the mistakes that you went ahead and did your first 2 years inside of this, and what would you advise them to do?
So, I mean, that's kind of the thing is, when you have a mentor, especially with someone with, like essentially for you guys, especially here, even if you learn from Zach Jordan as an example, right? They have essentially like a decade worth of experience. At the time when I came in, they had 5 years, 6 years, and they like I learned smart money from the get go, right? I didn't even know like retail patterns or any of
Mhm.
that. So I'm not saying smart money is the only way of trading. That's not what I'm getting at. But I was essentially being taught from individuals that already went through the trials and tribulations, right? And that's kind of the powerful thing about mentorship is, obviously, like me, for example, even though they told me not to do things, I still kind of had to, sometimes someone tells you not to do something and
Facts.
you still kind of got to do it yourself to figure it out. I mean, drop a one in the chat if that's you. I mean, I'm going to drop a one because, that's me. Even though someone tells me, hey, don't do that. It's like sometimes with our kids, like we'll be like, hey, don't touch the stove, but they still got to touch the stove and learn it, right? It is what it is, right? So it's like, that part was still there. And I'm not going to say that everything they told me not to do. There are a lot of things that I did end up doing. Like one of the things that I wouldn't say it's a regret. I don't regret anything in life. I think that if you made a certain mistake or you had a lesson in your life, I mean, you just had to go through it anyways.
Hmm.
But one of the things that I feel like I rushed into personally was trying to make day trading happen as soon as possible.
Mm.
Um, and make trading and entrepreneurship happen as soon as possible. And what I mean by that is when I got into this, and I do not recommend anybody to do this. I started my journey in February. I was working full time at the time, and this is actually kind of a dumb story at the same time, but I ended up getting in a fight in the middle of a gas station with a coworker, and it was really dumb. It's like he had to pick up some of my packages. If any of y'all ran Amazon before, there's something called a rescue where somebody that has more packages, other people that have finished their routes early, they come and pick up packages. So this guy was supposed to come grab some packages. He didn't, and I ended up having to stay longer. And then I obviously gave him shit. And then we were in the gas station. He comes up to me, throws hands, and then we were literally throwing hands in the middle of the gas station. And this was in about May. So I was like 2 years, or sorry, 2 months into this. And I'm like, yo, I don't need this job. Like that was my tipping point. I was like, I don't need this job. I know what trading is. And at the time I had about 50 grand saved up. So I'm like, yo, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to take the leap of faith here. And I mean, it ended up obviously working out for me, but is that going to work out for everybody? No. Right. But that was one of the things that I felt like I could have done better on is keep my cash flow. Because at the time, I basically, yes, I had 50 G's saved up, but it's like now that you have that money, it's like you don't kind of want to touch that. It's like this is supposed to be a rainy day fund. And I essentially put myself in a position where I was forcing trades when I didn't have to, right? Um, Trying to flip accounts and over lever, like do all the things that they tell us not to do, right? FOMO, over trading, all of these things. So I think one of the most key things about this industry is cash flow, right? And I learned it the hard way, right? I essentially cut off my cash flow, and it ended up working out for me because that same following year COVID hit. And I mean, I'm grateful I was able to hit P5K inside the business, which is Star Diamond now, if I'm right with the compensation plan, right?
Hmm.
It's Star Diamond now, which is 5K a month. And I essentially put myself in a position where I forced myself to make sure that, hey, okay, I'm trading, but I also got to run up the business. So that's why I'm saying I don't regret it, because I was able to build essentially my first online business. Being able to build online, I broke out of my comfort zone, and I started creating content, creating videos, doing all these things. So, you know, people can look at that as a mistake, but to me, that's why I was saying that to me, that was a growth moment, right? I started to do things that I didn't do before. But that's one of the things I would say was one of the mistakes I made. And the other thing as well is I lacked on investing the first cycle.
Mm.
Um, in 2020, yes, I made money off of crypto, going into 2021, but I lacked on the certain, like that was like my first crypto cycle. So, I did invest in some good things. I had some BTC, I had some sandbox, sand token at the time, but I could have done better at A, managing my positions, but B, I kept buying funded accounts and also buying and putting a lot of money into accounts and trying to flip them. When in reality, I could have invested that money, allowed it to snowball on its own easier instead of trying to make something happen with trading. I don't know if I'm making sense
Mm.
here, but I essentially tried to, because what you guys are learning here, you're not just learning how to day trade, right? You guys are also learning how to invest, right? Putting your money somewhere and allowing it to grow over time. And how many of us here, especially I know a lot of people love taking funded challenges or even funding up accounts, right? Funded challenges, depending on what you're doing. If it's a 100K account on like funding pips, that's like $500, right? Or $600. And it's like, now you go back and think about, okay, what if I put $600 in XRP at 30 cents? What could that be now? Right? And those are the types of things that I felt like I could have done better is my money management, right? Allocating my funds when it came to diversifying. Um, the other thing, as well as with the last cycle that I learned was my profit taking. That was the first, for example, my VV portfolio at the time at the peak was at like $250,000, right? Yet the only money that I actually took out of it was 20K, right? I could have made $250,000. I could have sold my Spider-Man for maybe, I don't know, 80, 70K, something like that. But I
Crazy.
didn't, you know? So, but that's the thing though. It's like, those are things I needed to learn because now this cycle, I've already taken profit on things. All right. Like XRP, for example, especially the ones that have been here since 2022, 2020. If you guys were in with us from 30 cents, I mean, I literally pulled out at $2.80 because I'm like, yo, this time around, I'm not going to make the mistakes. I'm not taking profit on things. And, I took profit. I paid myself, took that money, left it in stables, some of it, others I diversified. But now I'm making better judgments than I did the last time around.
There was like three big lessons that you went over right there, and I hope that it didn't go over anybody's head. And I definitely relate to what you said with the capital. I think we have a similar path in that sense, journey that we had. Like I got fired from my job as well. I could have got another job same way as you. We could have just gone out there and like, sucked up our ego for a bit and just actually grinded it out. But is we try to rush the process, and like I don't regret it because obviously those things have led us to become the people that we are now. But we can connect the dots looking backward and be like, well, could have probably done a little bit better right there. But now we're in a position to teach other people. And this leads to my next question. Now that we're in a position to teach other people and put them in a better position and say, hey, like, don't do decisions like that. Like, actually focus on your capital. So, what is, and I know we're not financial advisors, of course, but what is one thing that you could suggest
Actually,
to
wait, hold on. Before you ask the next question, I want to add one more thing, bro.
go ahead?
The other thing I also did with crypto was I felt like I went too much into memes the first cycle as well, and I went late into certain memes. So this time around, like I, I haven't even I wouldn't even say even like 2% of my portfolio I've allocated any of it. Like probably that much is what I allocated into maybe playing some meme things. Outside of like last time around, it was more like 20%, at like the last cycle. So I know some of us in here like playing those degenerate type of meme coin plays, but if you don't have a hefty main portfolio, in my opinion, you should not be going super ham into meme coins, right? If anything, it would be like a 5% allocation or something like that. That's just me personally, right? I know some people have their own opinions on that, but that was also one of the other mistakes that I made. Like I put like a few $100s into Safe Moon at the time, and it did well. I didn't do well on taking profit, and then when I did take profit, I took all of that profit and then threw it into another meme, and I ended up losing all of it. So it's like the allocation wasn't proper. But yes, I just wanted to mention that.
No, that's super key, especially right now. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people learned their lesson, with the current market conditions, they got wrecked. But like that's a huge lesson for a lot of people. And the question that I was pretty much gonna ask you is what for the average person in here, because a lot of people in here still work a job where they have a profession of their own, and this isn't their full-time thing, but they're wanting this to become their full-time thing eventually later on in their life. So, what advice would you tell that person that is wanting to make this a full-time thing? Like, how would you tell them to go ahead and have what proper plan would you advise them to do as far as them in the markets and investing?
um, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask this question because I feel like I took the super risky approach, but it's like you can't really make trading your full-time thing. Like that's just the truth. Anybody you see online and social media that say that they just do trading full time, most likely they are lying to you, right? Because everybody
That's
is
true.
always have something else,
Hmm.
right? They're selling a course, they're network marketing, they're doing sales in some other like they're doing something else most of the time. So if you are looking to be, to my eyes, you can't even call yourself a full-time trader, but being an entrepreneur, have other avenues for yourself,
Facts.
right? Like you really need to, because like I said earlier with the previous question, when I put myself in the position to just make money off of trading, I ended up wrecking myself. Because now it's like think about this, right? Anybody that hasn't done this yet, just think about it for a second. If you have to hit a trade to pay the bill next week, how are you going to what is your emotional intelligence going to be when you're in that standpoint? Right? You're going to try and chase trades. It's going to be very exactly what Bavik said. It's going to be stressful, right? And in my eyes, you want to be in a more neutral slash calm mindset when you're trading, right? You don't
Hmm.
want to be stressed about like trying to pay the bills and doing all of these things. It's like you really can't. So if anything, yeah, like what you said, run a clothing brand or do something on the side. Like for me, what that helped me transition for this was, you know, doing the business. Even network marketing is not even considered a stable thing because what if your team leaves? What if something happens?
Facts.
Right. So it's like essentially put yourself in a position where you have other streams of income coming in no matter what. Right. If you need to start a vending machine business, remember trading, especially some of y'all here, right? I'm assuming most of us here are in America. And if you're not, if you're in Europe, it's like for me, for example, I trade mainly New York session, right? Am I pressing buttons every day? No, but mainly I'm trading New York session. Okay, that's few hours in the day. In the afternoon, maybe you could do something else. One of the things that I told my students to do was it was just a hypothetical idea, and especially if y'all are here in Texas or anything like that, it's like start a pressure washing business,
Mm,
do car detailing on the side, you know, like these things actually pay you a lot. Like if you pressure wash a driveway or something, like you can charge people hundreds of dollars for that. And you do two or three of those jobs a week, you're making a couple of bands, right? I know this is kind of a disgusting thing to say, but cleaning gutters in a restaurant, I mean, you can actually charge people hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, depending on what it is, right? And these are businesses that you can actually start up in America with credit and do pretty easily if you build credit accordingly, right? It's like, and why not do these things? And now you're earning even more capital. Now, what if you have, let's just hypothetically say, let's say if you made 10 or 20 grand extra that year, and now you put that investment into a place. Now at 5 or 10 X's. Now you got six figures to your name.
mm,
What can six figures do for you now? I mean, you can literally pay off a house, right? Our mentor, Jordan Morgan, his house is paid off, right? Think about not having to deal with the mortgage payment as an example. Now you just got to worry about what, like 1,000, couple $1,000, not even like what, a few hundred, maybe even depending on which area you live in bills, and that's it, right? So it's like, in my eyes, if you really want to take this on as a full time thing, it's like A, you need to have no debt, and B, you genuinely do need multiple streams of income, right? So it's like car paid off, house paid off, right? And then after that, it's like, okay, you got to pay a few bills. I mean, if you're already generating income through other side businesses or whatever, you're putting yourself in that place. For myself, um, we kind of stopped doing this now because I had other ventures that I'm cooking up currently. But when I first moved down here, we started a health and wellness company, and we were essentially doing e-commerce, right? We were selling different products online, and that was helping me generate an extra $1,000 a month, right? Yeah, it just sounds like $1,000 bucks. But then I also started doing Amazon FBA while I was trading, while I was being an educator, right? It's like, and that was while I was a dad, you know? Like I'm still doing all these things. And it's like Amazon FBA is also an amazing way for all of y'all to build your credit, right? Like imagine using your credit, buying products and reselling them online. Obviously, this you got to do product research, all this stuff. Like there's a whole kerfuffle of things you got to do behind this. Is a whole nother skill set. But now I'm essentially doing something that I can work from home and work at my own pace. I find the products when I want to and I sell them when I want to. And that also was generating me a grand, 2 grand a month, right? And I was doing this in the peak time in Q4. I was literally selling Grinch dolls, right? Like you guys know the those, like, I forgot what the doll is called now. The little girl Grinch dolls. There's like,
oh,
I don't
I
know,
know what you're talking about.
maybe some of the girls
Mhm.
can relate with what I'm talking about here, but there's those dolls, and there's a limited amount of them, and during Christmas every single girl wants one of these. So you buy like they're worth $50, but then you can resell them online for 90, $100. They're not Bratz dolls. They're literally the doctor, like from the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, that doll. It's like oh my God. I, the Who dolls. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Thank you, Manny. Man, it was on the tip of my tongue. It wouldn't come out. But those are the types of things that I started doing. And especially during like December, for example. December is generally a month where I'm buying gold and just swinging it. So I have a lot of free time. So it's like, because people think that trading, you have to simply sit behind your computer every day and press buttons, but you don't. It's like, just because you show up to the chart doesn't mean you have to make money that day.
Mhm.
And even if you do or you don't, you have so much hours within the day. It's not like you have to sit there blowing air into the monitor to push the candlestick up. That's just not how it works, right? Like you press the button, you set your alarms, you guys can do other things. So in my eyes, I don't ever really look at this as a full-time thing because once again, like we said earlier, Junior, it allows us to have the time freedom that you can actually do other things. And in reality, the more things you do and the more cash flow you have, the more money you have to actually invest and put yourself even forward. Like right now, we've had a massive retracement inside of the market. A lot of people were like, man, Bitcoin's at 100K, right? Like they were like, man, I'm too late to the market. Here we are, right? We have the retracements, but how many of y'all have the cash to dispose,
Facts.
right? Some of y'all are also probably like, yo, they told me to buy the dip. Now it's dipping again. You ran out of cash. Well, I mean, that's what happens sometimes. You know, the market is going to do what it's going to do. You know, we have a trade war going on right now. Trump is being a savage, right? And it is bringing extreme fear inside of the market. But the blessed thing is that you guys have the skill set. But the question is, do you have the cash flow to keep up? And that was the other mistake that I made earlier on is I didn't have the extra cash flow. Right. So do what y'all got to do. Be true hustlers. Right. I know that was probably an overextended answer,
No,
but
no, that was fire, bro. I mean, a lot of people just never understand that just because I think Instagram makes things so glamorous for a lot of people, so they see that seven-figure trader online and they're like, "Oh, well, I just want to get to that point where I'm just clicking a button and making six figures in one trade and then I'm done for the day." I'm like, "Yo, but you got to get to six figures first. So what are you doing? What are you doing to get there? Or are you just hoping that, you hit for 10,000 pips in one single trade and boom, you're a six-figure trader, and like that's people's mentality, unfortunately coming into this and they want to just make this a full-time thing. But, like there's that quote, it's like the average millionaire has seven sources of income, and the reason why is because whenever you're not dependent on one, because again, everything has cycles the same way as you're trading, right? Like I think we can both come into agreement that we have, if we backtest pretty much our own strategy, we see that there's some months that we just don't perform as well, So what are we doing in those months to still make sure that we're keeping afloat, make sure that we still have cash coming in, to make sure that we're still being able to reinvest into other ventures, so that we were
like,
still, yeah.
yeah, like, yo, here, sorry to interrupt you, but like, so how many of y'all here know who Q Banks or Lambo Raul are?
Yep.
I think everybody here knows them, right? They're like the seven-figure, eight-figure traders out there, blah, blah, blah. Like those guys all have businesses on the side. They aren't just trading,
Facts.
Yes, they started off learning the skill set, but they took their earnings, put it in other places and diversified, right? Like we know they own prop firms. We know they own brokers, right? I'm not
Hmm.
saying that's what y'all need to be getting into, but what I'm saying is they have multiple streams of income. Same thing with Jordan. Jordan has multiple businesses, multiple ventures, right? And that's the beauty of this. Like it allows you to get that freedom where you can do the things that you want to do. And if there's, maybe some of y'all here, right? I know Junior loves food. Maybe in the future he wants to open his own steakhouse. You know what I'm
Facts.
saying? That could be another stream of income for him, right? I know Tony loves food too. Maybe he's gonna open up his own taco truck, food truck type biz. Like it could be whatever you guys love and passionate are about, right? That's truly what this is. Yo, I love smash burgers. When you open that up, let me know. I'll be one of your first customers. Let's get it.
Let's go. Let's go. And I think also one thing that what people don't realize with that is that it plays a big role into your psychology, which is the main, honestly, the main reason why a lot of people lose in the markets. It's not t due to technicals. I feel like a lot of people probably hopped on today's call and, they're hoping to get the holy grail of technicals. Um, but a lot of people fail to understand that a lot of the game is, since you're manually trading, it is psychological, and all these things that we're mentioning are able to enhance your psychological approach when it comes down to the markets, bro. But what were some of the things that helped you, especially because a lot of the people here are probably struggling with that? What were some of the things outside of what we just mentioned that helped you improve your psychology when it comes down to the markets to be able to have the approach that you have now?
The biggest thing, and this is actually something that I lacked on a lot my first year, was documentation and journaling. Um, it's like the markets are going to do what they want to do, and you as a trader, as an individual, you're going to react in a certain way, and this reaction is going to be different from trader to trader, right? Like me and Junior can see the exact same setup, but our entry confirmations can be different. Our entry itself can be different. Our stop placement can be different. Our take profit can be different. But on the chart, it's printing the same data. So I feel like a lot of traders neglect the self analysis on themselves, and they think that all the answers are on the chart, but it's actually within you. And this is where documentation is key. And I'm talking about journaling every trade, your reaction, right? I mean, a lot of y'all, you guys are obviously under like Mike Nav. So I know most of y'all in here have Mike Nav's trading desktop, trading journal thing that he has on Notion. And that is literally what I'm talking about here. But not simply just doing it, right? Because yeah, you can, put the trading view link in there, put the emotions, blah, 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 right? All those things could be there. But if you're not actually going back and learning from these trades that you took, you know, like you got to do the self analysis. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I feel like a lot of traders neglect in this
Hmm.
journey, right? They think that the answer is, oh, like it's the chart's fault, or, EU just ran this low, blah, blah, blah. That's why I got out. But it could have been more of a technical reason that you got hit out of that trade. It could have been a psychological thing. Maybe you risked too much. So it forced you to break even too early. So now the trade left without you, but it was due to the fact that you risked too much. Like these are those things that you should be journaling and putting inside your journal. But most importantly, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, on a monthly and quarterly basis, on a yearly basis, you need to be going back and analyzing yourself, right? Reflecting on your journal. Okay, like for me, I can tell you guys right now, and I tell you guys this on stream all the time. Wednesdays are by far my worst trading days, right? Because my data tells me that I am the least profitable on Wednesdays, right? Because generally the move reverses and it takes longer. I rush to the setup. That's what I figured out. So Wednesdays, naturally, now I have lower risk if I even see a setup. If not, I'm actually not even looking at the charts. I'll distract myself with something else. I'll either work on something else. You guys know I'm a gamer, or I'll just game, right? I distract myself because my data has told me Wednesday, Siva, you should not be pressing those buttons,
Hmm.
right? The month of September is not the greatest month for me, right? Because this is where I'm trying to, in the past history, it's like I try to grab those gold seasonal buys, but I'm generally too early. So I burn myself early. That's what it's showed me in my statistics. Um, the other thing that showed me in my statistics, USD CAD is my least profitable Forex pair. I don't touch that pair anymore. Even though I'm Canadian, I don't care. I'm not trading USD CAD because my data is telling me don't touch USD CAD, Siva, right? And then what else is going on here? Well, Forex in general is actually my least profitable instrument to trade. Gold is my most profitable. Second to that is NASDAQ. And if there are any Forex pairs, EU and USD Chef. Why can I tell you guys this? Because I have the data to prove it, right? My first year, I didn't journal, but the last 4 to 5 years, I have the data to tell you guys confidently that these are the things. Now, just like how I recited this, can you guys say the same thing about yourselves? Do you know what your strengths are? And do you know what your weaknesses are? Because if you don't, then you simply don't have enough self documentation. You have not been documenting it. And a big company, right? A big company out there doesn't simply release and do the same things over and over again without doing any annual reports and quarterly reports and stuff. How are they going to thrive as a company? Right? They need to come out with new innovation. They need to possibly even change their staff, change things. It's because they're able to look at the performance and start to dissect, okay, this is performing well, this isn't doing great, right? This is what I need to keep doing, this is what I need to let go of, right? It's the same thing in trading. But most people don't sit here and do this. The only thing that you do is you end up pressing the deposit button again, or you go and buy a new challenge or whatever, and you think that that's going to solve your issue, but it's not. Because guess what? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. So if you simply aren't going back and actually doing that self analysis, then you're going to make the same mistakes over and over again. And then you're going to be like, yo, Powerhouse and Iovia, is a trash company and trash group. You're going to blame everybody but you. That's what ends up happening, right? It's like, this is actually a funny example here. Um, any of y'all that know what's going on recently in the gaming industry, right? You guys know Marvel Rivals came out in December. I've been on that game, right? And there are so many people in that game that will play a character and not switch, right? And I start to argue with them. I'm like, yo, you're getting countered right now. You need to switch your character. And I'm like giving them facts. And you know what they end up like going to? They start ending up calling me cuss words and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, so you realize that I'm proving you by giving you solid arguments here, but now you've basically gone to the point where you're just cussing me out. That just goes to show that I'm right and you have nothing else better to say but to call me a B word or whatever, right? It's like it's the same thing in trading. If you're going to go and do, you're going to keep doing analysis on US 30 and that's the same pair that's clapping you over and over and over again, either you need to stop trading US 30 or you need to figure out what's going on. Because otherwise, the only thing you're doing is you're going to lose the game, right? Which is essentially you losing yourself. Sorry for the gaming analogies, but I'm a gamer. All right, it is what it is.
Bro, that's super key, man. Like I one of the reasons that I blew like one of the many reasons that I blew like a total of 35 accounts before I got my first profitable one was just simply me journaling. So it was the biggest thing is when you start journaling, you start taking your trading as a profession, as a business, because that's what it is. You're trading when you're trading currencies, you're trading literally countries' economy. You're trading stocks, you're literally trading companies. All these companies have data, like you said, but as traders want to make six figures, seven figures. You want to make a professional income, but don't want to treat it like a profession. It's crazy. So I always find it funny whenever people just never I guess get over their ego and get to that, and one of the last questions for me personally that I'm gonna ask you, before we go ahead and open it to everybody, which by the way, I'm gonna open it up to two questions from the crowd, so you guys can go ahead and drop it right now and we're gonna go ahead and go over it once we're pretty much done. But as far as the technical aspect, I know one of the biggest things that, you cover a lot, is a lot of divergence and a lot of volume, is those things, the biggest contributing factors that have led you to profitability as far as in a technical aspect, or what other technical ways have helped you achieve profitability time and time again, year to year?
So for the ones that have been here, you guys know that 2022 was that year where we really started to. I mean, this was like live markets at the time where we were studying volume and we were essentially, I mean, this is when Jordan brought it up to myself, to Iffy, to the whole squad. And for a fact, yes, volume has changed my trading. It has boosted my confidence. Um, Especially for the ones that have been on my sessions. You guys know I have a specific recording for this, and it's trading highs and lows of the days around 8:30 Central, which is 9:30 Eastern time, which is the New York bell, right when the New York Stock Exchange opens. And there is volume that happens during that time. And there's almost a setup that happens daily based off of that every single day. right? This is like my favorite setup. So yes, I would agree with you, bro. It has changed my trajectory there. Um, but not only on an intraday or day trading perspective, seeing volume on higher time frames is what makes me confident to pull trigger on investments.
Hmm.
For example, when you have, this is obviously an old example, but this is always the one that comes up to the top of my head, right? When Bitcoin was at 16K, Jim Cramer comes out and says, I wouldn't touch crypto in a million years. And during that time, we've seen the biggest amount of sell volume that we've seen in months. And it stood out, right? That is obvious, right? If you guys look at the Intel chart right now, we've seen some of the biggest amount of sell volume that we've seen in a while, right? So it's like these are the things that I personally just love having in the back as an extra confirmation. Outside of that, you guys know, the Wickoff examples of us, using Wickoff itself, right? Breaker structures for our entry, imbalances, institutional candles, like all of that is there as well, right? But volume, I would say, is that extra thing that added on that, like, it made us more confident on the setup. And, to me, it was a huge thing. Outside of that, the other thing that makes me really confident, honestly, is when you have the mass media and just retail in general going in one direction, then, like for example, when Jim Cramer tweets, right, and he says something, that is something that has allowed us to position in the complete opposite direction, right? For example, even what was it last week? He said, I think the market should recover from here or whatever. And like NASDAQ continued to sell off. And it's like, we've been saying that. You guys know, I've been calling out 19K on NAS, 19K on NAS. And it's like, now you just have this dude hollering on his Twitter, and it's like an added confirmation. So the narrative is the other thing. But it's like having both of them. When you have the narrative and you have volume to back it up, oh my God, that's just like the chef's kiss. It's just a beautiful setup. And yeah, that's probably the biggest thing for me. And Wickoff in general. Like, I mean, Wickoff to me is he's my grandpa. I know he's not brown like I am, but he is the GOAT.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, bro, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I've implemented within my trading over the past even just 2 years, in addition to what I already do, is a lot of stuff that I've learned from you as well, and I think that's the biggest thing as well that a lot of people fail to understand. We have like we both have now pretty much 6 years of experience inside of the markets, but the thing is that we trade completely differently. We still have our own outlooks in the markets, but we're able to sharpen each other's iron. And that's the beautiful thing about about trading in general, because a lot of you in here inside of this call, maybe you're a year in, 2 years in, but you have your comrade that is a year in, 2 years in. You guys have maybe different approaches. Doesn't mean that you have to switch your perspective for his or hers. But there is ways that each and every single one of you can improve, and if you guys just sharpen each other's iron, you guys can really come up together. So I appreciate you for that, Siva. Now, if you guys have any questions, you guys can go ahead and feel free to drop it inside of the chat, and I'll go ahead and just pick two out of the Zoom chat, and then we'll just pretty much continue on from there.
So
Uh,
Kenneth asked a question here. When am I going to start doing New York Open Go lives? I mean, y'all have Mike Nav there, running up the live New York Open sessions. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things. Is like I've gotten asked this multiple times. And there are other educators live then, so it's like I don't want to overlap sessions. Zach goes live during that time, but Mondays, especially, even Wednesdays. I mean, even if you guys are on my session this Wednesday, I mean, we caught a setup live on NASDAQ on the 1 minute time frame, right? If you guys are on that session. So, I am going over live setups. I am also going over, more macro direction as well. But, I give multiple setups on hour, 4 hour. There's multiple, setups that you guys could take advantage of regularly, especially for some of the students that have been tuning in. You guys know that's something that we do regularly.
And then we got just Josiah that asked, how do I know if I'm profitable? Like, should I measure in a span of months, weeks, or what exactly?
How do I know I'm profitable? Um, I mean, I would say, are you up on your bread or are you down? Right? Like, are you in, like, have you made, like, I think that's kind of a literal question, right? But what I would say is like, and I'm not trying to clown you or anything like that. That's not what I was getting at, but, um, it's just like, I mean, first question I have to ask you is what do you classify as profitability to you? Right? It's like, what do you, because here's the thing, like, I know a lot of people, and I see you put this in here, like, people like to say, hey, I want to make 10% a month. But in reality, you're not going to do that every single month. Right? You know, so like some people like the biggest hedge funds in the world are doing 40% a year.
Facts.
All right. They're doing 40% a year. Now, am I saying you can't do more than that? Of course you can. Maybe you can't. But if you're asking the question of, let's say if you're let's say on a demo account and you're like, okay, when can I move over to live funds? When do you feel like I'm probably profitable to do that? If that's your question, then I would say, are you consistently following your rules and hitting a setup? And if it's, let's say if you track your data for like a month, 2 months, and you're doing well and your demo count is up and you're following your plan, then you're most likely ready to start a live account or some sort of live funds, right? Like I say give yourself like 2, 3 months worth of data to then analyze and be like, okay, cool. I took this setup. Um, oh, perfect. I didn't even read what you said, but you said you're paper trading right now. Okay, perfect. So it's like I read your mind, bro. What your question was. But yeah, that's exactly what I would kind of suggest there is if you're demo trading right now and you're going towards learning how to get into live, then or you're not comfortable yet. That's what I would kind of get at is like for me personally, it's kind of also hard for me to answer that question because I'm somebody that came into this industry with high risk tolerance. Um, and I was already used to per se losing money in a sense. So I never did a demo account. Like I always needed skin in the game. That's just naturally who I am as a person. So, but that's kind of the like I guess the hindsight advice that I could give you. But I never really traded on a demo. So, I can't say, hey, this is what I did. And then I went to live because I never went through that process. I always just hopped on live from the get go. But yeah, test a specific setup. And if that setup hits for you regularly on that account and you've been doing it consistently, then yeah, hop into live, right? And get in there.
Then we got Bavik as the last question. And you guys can ask the rest of the questions within the community chat room as well. And I'll just tag Siva in there. But Bavik said, what helped you zoom out of the tunnel vision when trading and be able to switch your bias on a more faster level, especially for a scalp to intraday or even to swing?
Great question. It's like we understand the market needs to go up and down. Of course it does, right? It doesn't just go up all year or all month. It doesn't go all it doesn't go down all month or all year. It goes through essentially cycles. So the biggest thing that I would suggest to you if you're kind of, you're trying to scalp, but then you're going against the macro direction, what I would tell you to do is zoom out and look at the higher time frame. What is the higher time frame telling you? Right? So for example, it's like the indices as an example right now have been on multiple down days, right? Or let's take gold as an example because I know a lot of people this week were trying to sell gold for some reason, right? Maybe you should have been on my sessions. You wouldn't have been selling gold. You would have been buying it with me. But anyways, right? It's like if you're selling in a bullish market environment, you need to know that your targets need to be quick. There's nothing like I'm not telling you guys, hey, don't short in a bullish market. Of course, you can get sells in there, but you need to be cautious of the fact that, hey, if I'm selling in a very bullish market, my targets need to be quick targets. I shouldn't be trying to swing this to make a new low when the market just made a higher low. Like, does that make sense? It's like if you're in a bullish market environment, if you're getting in any shorts, if anything, you should, get out as soon as possible. Like, if you're entering on your first institutional candle, maybe you should get out at the first imbalance that you see because maybe that's where the market reverses and it continues higher.
Hmm.
That's what actually happened on gold this week. Everyone was trying to sell, but it simply just filled an imbalance and boom, hit all time highs. Right. So it's like that sell played out, but it was the sell to the buy because overall the market is bullish. So look at your higher time frame, look at things like seasonality as well, especially if you're trading commodities or very high supply and demand things like even indices, right? This is where those types of things can help you, and overall paying attention to what environment you're in, right? Like especially right now. And I went over this on my session. I'm going to go over it on Friday, on tomorrow's go live as well. When every other financial market is in uncertainty. So, for example, the stock market, the crypto market, where does everybody go? Does anybody know the answer to this question? When there's uncertainty, where do investors like putting their money? What is the one thing that is always guaranteed growth no matter what? Gold. Exactly. So think about it. When there was actual war going on I don't know if it's done yet or not, but to be honest, I haven't really followed with it that much. But when things were going on in the Gaza and Palestine and all that stuff, why did gold go up? Because during times of war, people put money into gold, right? Right now, what do we have going on right now, family? It's a different type of war. It's a trade war. So where do you think investors are going to be comfortable with putting their money? Metals, right? Silver, gold, right? So it's also having that like narrative thought process. Now, I see you messaged me on the side on this with like the from a psychological standpoint. Um, so some people might disagree with me on this, but I personally believe that if you have such a strong technical and fundamental narrative, the psychology gets thrown out the window because it doesn't care. Like the market does not care what you think,
Hmm.
right? You want the market to go down. I don't care if you're sitting there praying to whichever person you believe in. The market ain't going to do what it wants you to do,
Fact.
right? It's going to work off of what's actually factual, right? Just like what I said. If you are shorting gold this week, while there's a trade war going on, while we're in a Republican presidency, while seasonality shows you that we're bullish in March, you are going against all the odds.
Hmm.
You're basically trying to run out of train and trying to save it like Spider-Man did in those movies. You're not Spider-Man, my guy. I'm sorry, but you're going against everything, right? It's like you want to put yourself in a position what like when it comes to trading, you want to put yourself in a position of where are the odds going to play in my favor, right? What makes the most sense? And if you're looking at the market and you're essentially pinpointing all these things and they're all going against you, the setup might play out, but most likely if you're going against all of the odds, it probably isn't. So if it comes down to that, if you're doubting yourself, one of the things that I like doing too, and I don't know if y'all's gut feeling is as strong as mine, but I listen to my gut,
Hmm.
right? It's like there's always that it's like that hidden like entity inside of your body. I don't know if this is way too like spiritual right now, but yeah, that hidden voice. And it's like telling you, hey, you shouldn't do this, or no, wait, you're doubting yourself. If I ever get in that mindset, yo, I'm not even pressing any buttons. I rather not risk my capital if I'm second doubting intuition. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for as well. If your intuition is in doubt, you're better off not pressing a button that day.
Facts.
And try and do that once. Try and listen to that intuition one time. Or if you're like, yo, the market could buy here, but it could also sell here. If you can see both sides right then and there, sit out that day in the market. Wait until it plays out and check yourself and see, okay, you know what? And because I've actually done this personally, I've had instances where, I'll look at the market. I'm like, yo, I see buys and sells. You know what? I'm going to just sit out, right? I'm going to just sit out. And that was what we did with gold this week. I was saying, wait for the lows to get ran because I don't know what's going on right now. So I sat out. And then CPI came, it ran the low, and then it was like, all right, perfect. Now the clarity comes, right? Now you're like, okay, you know what? The low got ran. It makes sense. Everything is there. Okay, I'm going to get in. But when you have that uncertainty, I think the best thing that you can do as a trader is just simply sit on your hands. I'm not saying just listen to your gut. What I'm saying is if you see both sides of the market and you're uncertain on your setup and you're not sure what to get into, then you're probably better off just sitting on your hands and not pressing any buttons that day or on that particular pair or setup or whatever you're looking at. Right?
No, yeah, 100%. And guys, that went ahead and actually concluded everything for us. But before anything, I want you guys all to go ahead and drop a thank you inside of the Zoom chat for Siva. Yo, Siva, I appreciate you for everything you do. And this is what I'm actually going to go ahead and do because a lot of people actually need to go ahead and hear from you, but on your live sessions. So, guys, when you log into your account, right, he's actually live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um,
Yep.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, he actually goes live. And if in case you miss any of his sessions, they're all recorded. But the key thing is actually going to the favorite sessions that he has. Inside of the favorite sessions, guys, if anything didn't make sense that we went over, he pretty much goes over pretty much all the key fundamental things that you need to go ahead and learn in order to pretty much learn exactly what it is, what style that he trades, his perspective, his analogy with everything. And again, Siva, I appreciate you for the endless education that you go ahead and devote towards all of us here within the community. I appreciate you so much, each and every single one of you. I hope that all of you have a blissful weekend, and let's get it.